Okay, are we ready to start painting? You might want to zoom in on your robot just a little bit, as I've done here. I'm going to start off by painting his head and maybe painting his shoulders and his chest there. Make sure that you have your layers palette set up the same way that I have here, which we did in the previous exercise. Make sure you have your color layer selected as well. And then I'm going to head over to Photoshop's toolbox and I'm going to go and grab my paintbrush tool. Go ahead and do the same thing. Okay, great. Now, I want to show you how we can set some options for our paintbrush tool first here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to head up to the options bar running across the top here. And this second drop down that we have, this is what I want to show you here. We have a bunch of different options here. What we can do here is we can use our size slider to increase or decrease the size of our paintbrush. And we also have a hardness slider as well, so we can increase or decrease the softness of our brush. Or what you could do is you could come into this area here and you could grab a pre-created brush. And as you can see here inside Photoshop CS5, there's all kinds of new brushes to explore, right? So you can explore through these guys if you want. There's some artistic brushes down towards the bottom. We'll explore those in just a little while. But I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to set my size here to, I'm not sure, maybe around 100 or maybe around 75 or 60 or somewhere in there. And I'm also going to set a hardness maybe of about 50%, something like that. Okay, perfect. Now, the next thing that I want to do, now that I've set up my paintbrush, is I want to go and choose a color to actually paint with. And I mentioned earlier that we didn't need any panels, so we turned off all of our panels. And then I said, oh, we need our, our layers panel, so I had to open that up. And now I'm realizing, well, we need another panel open, our swatches panel. So I'm going to head to my window menu and then look for swatches down towards the bottom. Pop that guy open. You might want to do a little bit of adjusting here. And what I want to do is I want to select a gray. I think I'm going to choose maybe this gray here, the 35% gray. And if I click on that color swatch inside the swatches panel, notice that that color now loads into the foreground color swatch at the bottom of the Photoshop toolbox. So the color that sits inside the foreground color swatch is going to be the color that you and I are going to begin painting with, right? So what I would do now is I'd bring my cursor over top of my artwork. Again, I have that color layer selected. Don't forget that our line art layer is not only locked, but we set a blending mode of multiply, right? So when I start clicking and dragging with my paintbrush, not only do I start painting with the color that you and I had selected out of the swatches panel, this 35% gray, but notice that our black lines are completely preserved, right? That's what that multiply blending mode is doing for us here. So the idea here is I would basically make my way around my artwork, painting the entire thing in here, you know, something like this. And I'm not doing the greatest job in the world, but hopefully you get the idea here. And of course, I'm kind of spilling paint into some of the other areas of my artwork here. So let me show you a couple of things here. What I could do here, if I wanted to decrease the size of my brush, is I could head back to the drop down that you and I had been inside of, which is found up on the options bar, and I could reduce the size of my brush. I think I was on about 65 pixels. I could bring this down to about 30 pixels, hit enter to lock that in, and now I have a smaller brush which I can now use to continue painting inside my artwork, right? That's one option I could certainly make use of. So that's kind of the basics anyway of working with the paintbrush tool inside Photoshop. Now what we'll do in the next exercise is I'll show you a couple of other neat tricks that you can use.